Hi, my name is Lupe Romero, and I am fighting pancreatic cancer for the second time. Initially diagnosed February of 2012. I am now a 4-year survivor. I've had an aborted Whipple procedure and then a successful Whipple procedure. I've been on very aggressive chemotherapy, multi-agent chemotherapy. I've had radiation. I was cancer free for a year and 4 months, and then May of 2014, I had a reoccurrence, placed back on aggressive chemo. My husband had been sick of a different illness, so 2 months after my reoccurrence, in July, my husband passed away. We met when I was 14 and he was 17, and pretty much inseparable since then. Our relationship, I feel like we went to hell and back, but not in a bad way. It's just the ignorance of being so young. And then our relationship was stripped to the core, and then it bloomed into something beautiful. We became one person. Not only did we become one person, but with our illnesses, it's like our relationship was meshed, and it just, we became more than one person. We took very good care of each other. I feel very peaceful because I don't have any regrets. There isn't anything more I could have done for my precious Louis, and there isn't anything more he could have done for me. He took very good care of me. He loved me and my boys so much, but I was his whole life, and to know how much I was loved, it just gives me great peace. My husband's love, it still overflows in my heart. But anyway, my grandson and I went to see Miracles from Heaven yesterday, and I can totally relate to that movie. I had an experience in 2001. I went to Israel with my mother and her church group. At that time, we had just been given the diagnosis in 1999 that my husband was very ill and that he most likely had 3 years to live. So when my mother asked me to go on this trip, I was torn. I didn't know whether I should stay with my husband or go on this trip with her, because my dad had died in 1999 and she had taken this trip with my dad many times. And so I didn't have the finances, and things sort of fell into place. I ended up with this money I didn't realize I had, and almost to the cent of what the trip would cost. So I went with my mother, and I accompanied her, and we followed Jesus' life, literally followed his life. We went to where Mary and Joseph lived before Jesus was born, and we went visited all the places where Jesus visited, and towards the end of the trip, I wasn't. I remember thinking I wasn't absorbing as much as I should have been, and I remember just thinking and just thinking, gosh, we've been in these such amazing places, and I just haven't really. I just wanted to experience more. Well, I guess ask and you shall receive. I have chemo brain, so I know the name of where Jesus was praying for Israel. So we were at the where Jesus is standing in front of that huge rock near the Mount of Olives, where he was praying for Israel. He was praying for humanity. He was praying so hard that he was bleeding. He was sweating blood. Well, at that, the priest that we had gone with said mass at all of those special places. So as we were waiting for the priest to come in, then he came in and on to behind the altar. We all stood up, and I closed my eyes. Well, the second that I closed my eyes, it wasn't even like I closed my eyes. I closed my eyes, and I didn't see the priest in clarity. I saw the priest and I saw the altar, and then right as with my eyes closed, what I saw is that all of a sudden It was Jesus, and hundreds of people who had passed came down over the altar above the priest. And Jesus was blurry, and all of these hundreds of people surrounded him. And to the right was my dad. And my dad was clear as anything, but Jesus and the other beings who had passed, they were blurry. They were all wearing red. It was like the monks when they wear their monks' robes, but these robes were red. And my father had this robe, and he had a rope around the waist, and he had these beautiful wings, and they all had beautiful wings. And over to the left was also my friend Mary. Her husband had passed, and even though I couldn't see Bernard, I knew that Bernard was there. I could see him kind of blurry, but I mean, but I knew that Bernard was there, and all the other people that I loved that had passed on, I knew that they were there. And all of a sudden, it was like I was connected to, I can't even explain it. I was connected to this knowledge. It's like they were talking to me. All of these people were talking to me all at the same time almost. I can't even explain it, but I focused mostly on my dad. And my dad was very beautiful, and it was made very clear to me that my dad was beautiful, but even more beautiful than how I saw him. But my mind, my earthly mind, would not comprehend the beauty, his true beauty. The only way that I would comprehend it is, when I passed on. And then all of a sudden I saw myself as this toddler walking down the altar. I was this toddler with diapers, and I would fall. I must have been like, I don't know, maybe not even a year old, but I was walking, and I would take a few steps and I would fall. Each of those falls represented the hardships in my life. And every time I'd fall, my dad would look down on me very lovingly, and he would not help me because he knew that I would be okay, that I needed to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. And then this knowledge kept pouring into me, things that I already know, but it was a confirmation. And then all this knowledge that I was hearing, and then it was Jesus, and he said to me that he is not religion, that we misinterpret the Bible. I mean, it is his word, but we're not supposed to be sedentary. We're supposed to live his word. And he also said that there is evil in this world, definitely evil, but not as much as we think. He says we're too judgmental. We judge our brothers and sisters. And it was also made clear to me that we're here for the sole purpose of loving each other, forgiving each other, learning lessons from each other. And like I tell you, I've forgotten a lot of of the experience, but he said he chose Christians. We didn't choose him. And he also said that he's not the only. He has many brothers that are guiding all of us to God. So, and said it was this knowledge that I just kept pouring into me, and so then all of a sudden I just opened up my eyes, and when I opened up my eyes, I didn't feel anything that I could describe. My knees were like jelly, and I wanted to cry, but I wasn't happy, and I wasn't sad. It was an emotion that I can't even describe. And so Mass was ready to start. Oh, and before I forget too, another thing that was made very clear to me is that I was told that I was going to suffer. I was going to suffer a lot. But by the time I got to them, there would be peace and joy. And that my journey to me seemed like days and years. But to them, it was just a blink of an eye. So then anyway, after I opened up my eyes and I felt like I was going to boo-hoo, but I wasn't sad. Mass was starting, and then I had to put my hand over my mouth because I would have just started crying. And the priest kept staring at me, and I thought I was making a lot of noise because through the whole Mass, I just was, I don't know, I just kept wanting to cry. And so finally, Mass was over, and as I went outside, I met my mom and I told her what had happened and what I had seen, and we hugged each other and we cried. And then, and I told her that I felt I was disrupting the Mass because the priest kept staring at me. Well, um, a couple days later, still during our trip, we still kept doing some sightseeing. Then my mom told me that the priest came up to her and he told her that he kept staring at me. My mom told him what I had experienced, and he said he knew, that he totally, totally believed what she was saying, because when he looked at me, he just couldn't stop staring at me because I was beautiful. I was glowing. So, that confirmed whatever was going on. So I think that I don't think, my faith is strong and I trust God 100%. And I know that that experience became part of who I am. I can't explain it. I couldn't give you any more details or explain to you there are not enough words to explain my faith and my trust, but I have trust 100% with my journey. I mean, when I've been ready to go for years, but obviously God has me here, um, for His purpose, for whatever He wants. But even that, I don't dwell on that. Um, People have told me, oh, you need to write a book, you need to share your experience, but I know that all I need to do is be me. All I need to do is walk down the hallway, pray for my brothers and sisters, pray for humanity, and that's all I have to do is just be me. I believe in God. I trust Him 100%. I am totally in love with Him. And I know that my husband is with Him. Also, the year that I was diagnosed, I think my husband also had life after death experience. We almost lost him. I was diagnosed in February, and we almost lost him in August. He had had 3 varicose bleeds, and they didn't think he was going to make it through the night. And my husband shared with me that he was in his room. He was on a ventilator for a very short time, just overnight, but he said he was in his room and that he just jumped out of his body. He was jumping from one bed to another, and he was jumping all over the room. He wasn't sick. He was just so excited that he was feeling so well. But then he heard the nurse was coming in, so he jumped back into his body. But that year, I think if I would have lost my husband that year, the year that I was diagnosed, I don't think that I would be as strong as I am now. I honestly feel that God sent my husband back to me, or my husband made the decision to come back, because for a few weeks after my husband had had that experience, he had lost a lot of weight and he looked so youthful. I kept staring at him and I kept staring at those eyes. I had not seen that life and joy in my husband. I had not seen those youthful eyes since we were in our late teens, early 20s. He was so full of life and so in love with God, and he would wake me up on Sundays to go to church. He couldn't wait to go to church. He said that he can just feel the music of the church just go through his veins. And so then my husband started getting sicker and his health really declined. I was diagnosed in 2012. He died in 2014. He aged a lot in 2.5 years, very noticeable, but he loved me that much that my illness just really, really got to him. And before my husband died, he never complained. He was, my gosh, he just was a perfect guide for me. He just took such good care of me because he had been sick for so many years that he kept me going. And again, I think that if he had died that year, there's no way I would have made it through. But he hung in there for me, and then he got really sick. And the day that my son and I took him to the hospital,